What's up, Magnetic Men Club? We're happy to have you guys here. I know that you guys probably from the group are seeing this now too. This is our second call that we're streaming to the group. We've been streaming these calls since about January of last year to our YouTube channel, so we're happy to have you guys all here. I'm Chase with Magnetic Men Club. This is my good friend Jared here.
What's up, kids? Another awesome weekend here. I appreciate you guys taking the hour out of your day to see what the F it is we're talking about today. And
Well,
today's a good one because it's Father's Day or
exactly.
coming up. I figured Chase came up with the idea of doing this on skilled labor shortage and tying it into Father's Day and stuff. So I'll let you kind of follow up with that a little bit. But this is something I know a lot about. Um, Pretty much everybody in my family, other than two or three people that I know, have actually went on to college. Everybody else is a plumber, electrician, steam fitter, all of this. I come from a very blue collar background, and I'm more comfortable that way. My friends and my associates, a lot of them are very blue collar people. I speak their language. They speak mine. I understand it. And that's not to say I'm not putting white collar down or anything like that, but I'm saying like I understand what they're going through. So I thought, you know what? This is when Chase brought this up. I said, yeah, fuck yeah, let's talk about this one a little bit. So,
I think it's important because here's the biggest thing is I think that fatherlessness in the homes over the last 50 years, you can kind of track all this stuff all the way back to the 50s, the 60s. Kids used to watch their dads go to work. They used to go to work with their dads, watch them do their plumbing, watch them do their fix their cars, mechanics, all that kind of stuff too. The dads used to teach them how to do that stuff. Obviously, they'd get pissed when you didn't hold the flashlight, right? But I think that over time, we've kind of lost that connection. We've lost that connection with our dads. We've lost that connection with our grandpas. And I think that this has really led to a deterioration of the backbone of America. This is really what America stands on. And this is really important to us too, because we have people who are extremely skilled, who are retiring, who are leaving the market, and they're not passing their skills on to the younger generation because the younger generation wants nothing to do with it. And in most cases, they're kind of looking at these guys and yeah, they're working 12-hour days. They're working every day. They're never home with their families. And on top of that, they've got bad backs. They've got bad knees. They've got bad shoulders. And I don't want that for myself. I would rather just go start a marketing agency and help these guys get clients when they don't realize that these guys don't need more clients. They need more skilled workers. They need people who are committed to this stuff because they're putting so much money into training and it's draining them. A lot of these companies are going out of business because they just can't stay with it. They can't keep training these people just to have them move on to their competition, have to raise their wages and try and get people who are unskilled in these jobs who just get injured in their first year, and then they're paying the healthcare cost for it. And so it's just draining and bleeding them dry. And so they're hanging up their hats, right? Hanging up their hard hats. They're just done with it. They're kind of like, I don't need to do this anymore. I've made my money. I've saved my nest egg. I'm just going to retire in the next 5 years and I'm out of it.
yeah, and a lot of them, so how the trades work, I'm sure, guys, obviously, if you are in the trades, and I get this wrong a little bit, I do apologize. I'm not in the trades. But so you have the union workers, where typically, if you want to be a plumber, electrician, um, steam fitter, things like this, just a regular carpenter, you start joining the union, and in real time, they're training you, they're paying you, and you go through the classes. Perfect. And then you have the non union workers who really they're electricians, they're plumbers, they're just not in the union, they're not paying union dues, they're private companies that aren't bidding on union jobs or union Davis Bacon, it's called. It's a pay rate that a developer would have to pay for the unions to come in, which complete bullshit, by the way, can be for a whole other video. Davis Bacon should actually, it's controlled and ran by the federal government. It's about $1 billion a year to run it. It should be completely gone away. Most people in the union actually would agree with me. Whole different topic, but so you have these two different groups. And in like North Carolina and South Carolina, it's not very union heavy. It's pretty much private contractors. You go to New York and you're not in the union, you're a effing nobody. But the unions are good because you can get your health insurance through them, you get a 401k, you can get vacation, you get to bid on jobs and go to those jobs if you're skilled enough. So if you have the skill set, you can go on the jobs. Yeah, I'll do this one, I'll do that one. So there is a time and a place for a union. But like what Chase was saying, if you have this big company and you're the master plumber and you have all these other plumbers under you that are trying to get to master level, here's what you know. Once they get to master level, there's no reason for them to stay underneath you. They're going to spin off and start their own company. That would make sense, and that's okay. But do you want all of your journeymen that are 5 years in who are ready to test for master and they all F and leave you? This is what Chase is talking about. They're getting into the ranks, they're doing all these things, they're becoming these master plumbers, and they're going to spin off because, and you can't blame them. They can't make any more money in your department in your company. They can only pay one master, and if you're the owner, you're the master, and then you have everyone else. So you can't blame them. The problem is all the young people have been sold a bunch of bullshit for the last 60 years, basically saying, oh, you don't need to be an electrician, a plumber in the trades. Those guys are idiots. I have yet to meet one person in the trades that is dumb. They're actually very brilliant people, and they're actually very good with their hands. A lot of people in college are very smart up here, but they're fucking retarded with their hands. Most of them don't even know how to fix anything. This is why the trades are looked down upon. Now, I disagree with that. Like I said, my entire family, Chase's family, a lot of us, like, these are brilliant guys. They just
I grew up
choose.
in it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the whole point of this is you're in a trade, you want to grow as a man anyway within your trade, but you're capped at a certain level. The only thing you can do now is spin off, start your own company, which of course you'd want to do. There's not enough people. I just read this from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. These are 2023 numbers. 40% of all the men in the trades, in all of the trades, are 45 years and older. And this makes sense. I'm 49. I have a lot of friends who are in the trades and they're at the echelon. They know their shit. They're at their peak right now. They know it all. And they're telling me in real time there's nobody coming in. Their class used to be 30 of these young bright kids. There's 5 of them. And 3 of them might wash out. So we're in a real we're in a real problem the way I see it, because if you don't have people who can fix your electrical issues, fix your plumbing, maybe you got a foundation issue, a cement, a mason, roofers, any if you don't have these people to fix the infrastructure, to fix the things, who's going to do it? I mean, who's going to do it? I'll wait. No, nobody will. And
It's a huge problem. It really is.
this is why when you call somebody just to even a roofer at your house, it might be 3 weeks for them to get to you to estimate your house. And it might be another month for them to actually get there, assuming you take their bid. And they could care less if you take their bid. People in the trades right now have it very good because they can command
They're in demand.
massive wages. And if you don't want them, they don't care. They're like, well, there's 50 other phone calls right now that we're waiting on. So if you are a young man, or maybe a guy who did go to college, my brother went to college and he's an HVAC guy at a college right now. He had to retool because his college degree meant fucking nothing in the real
Yeah.
world. Yeah. They wanted him to have a master's. And then for him to get a master's, he's like, that's 2 more years and 30 more $1,000. So a lot of these guys there have been sold a bill of goods. They got their degree, they were lied to, they can't find a job. They're finding themselves now in the trades and they're making killer money. And most of these guys tell me if I knew what I knew now, what I knew then, I would have been 10 years ago, I would have been an electrician. I wouldn't have been effing around with all these stupid jobs. I would have been an electrician much further along, or I would have been a plumber, or I would have been an HVAC or a tin knocker, any of these trades. If you're a young man watching this, I beg you to go and talk to these guys. They're not going to bite your head off. Some of these guys will actually let you shadow them just to see if it's something you're interested
Right.
in. And if it is, then they will lead you to the right direction of how to start because they all know they can't do this forever. Most of them, like I said, 40% are 45 years and older. Only 9% of the 2023 numbers are 19 to 24. That's not sustainable.
One big thing that I saw too, as far as the statistics coming out from this, is the application rate for technical jobs like plumbers and electricians has dropped by 49% just between 2020 and 2022. And that was from NPR reports. And so that tells you that like people are less interested in these jobs for one thing. And so like these guys have to raise the wages to try and entice more people into it. And then they also have to lower their standards because a lot of these people are not as adept, right? They haven't learned as much. They haven't had as much experience. A lot of them get injured in their first years. So they end up with the healthcare costs from that on top of having to train these people. And then also on top of that, there's so much competition because these guys are so in demand that they're training them essentially for their competition. These guys just end up job hopping because they're like, oh, well, they're paying better over here. They're paying better over here. Thanks for the experience, thanks for the skills and the training. Now I can go work for these guys and make more money. And so these guys are just being bled dry. So for one thing, like they can't keep up with their current customers. They can't keep up with their timelines. So their customers are angry on top of that. Not that they can take their business elsewhere, right? It's basically these jobs are dwindling. And so they're backed up. They don't need more leads. They need more skilled workers in a lot of cases. And a lot of these kids are like, hey, you know what? I would just rather go start a marketing agency. I would rather live abroad. I'm watching these people in Bali and it's like, I've perpetuated these issues too. I'm the guy who kind of worked online. I've moved abroad. I did all those things. I started a marketing agency. So I understand the thinking there. It's like you watch your grandpa for years break his back trying to do construction jobs, trying to do contracting work. And he's got bad knees. He's got a bad back. And he's pretty much left out to dry by the end of it all because he didn't really build a full-on business. He was working for himself a lot of those years. He didn't understand marketing. He didn't really save a nest egg. And so he's just left on unemployment. He's just pretty much left with what he has. He just has to retire because he can't handle the job anymore. And there's nobody there to take his place. And so I remember he taught me a lot of these skills that were really invaluable to me. Like I learned how to change brakes on a car. I learned how to change my own oil. I learned how to change my own tires. I learned how to do drywall. I learned how to do a lot of the electrical work and stuff too. And dealing with that stuff. I mean, because this stuff is dangerous. It's not general knowledge. Normal people cannot just do these things. You could pull up a YouTube video all you want, but you'll still be hard pressed to get it done. You're still probably going to have to go hire that expert and pay them maximum dollar just to get it done. And you're going to be waiting 3 to 4 weeks to even have it done because they're so backlogged, they can't find good workers that it's becoming a major issue. And like I said, this is eroding the backbone of America.
It is. And here's another, just a statistic is I think a lot of it is how good colleges were for literally the last 60 years at marketing. So the unions failed at marketing. The unions, they didn't put money, they didn't put ad dollars into making the trades a relevant thing. But colleges were really smart. Like, you don't want to be like your parents. You want to have an education. You want a white collar job. Get a 4-year degree. Well, from 1961 to 2020, it worked. In 1961, 2.4 million people were in colleges. Today, it's 11.1 million people are going into colleges. That's a huge number. That's a huge increase in the last 60 years. It's in marketing. Now, I will say in real time, even in New York, 5 colleges that I know have all closed and they were the stupid liberal arts colleges anyway. They don't fucking teach anything, but that's a whole other issue. They all closed, and I'm super happy because we got too many colleges teaching far left wing ideology. In the same time, though, all of these people were sold. Oh my God, I got to go to college. Yeah, I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my grandfather. I want to be white collar and college educated. Well, what's happening? You get a bachelor's degree, and you might be middle management, we'll say in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when there was manufacturing jobs. And you might be this young guy in a manufacturing environment with the white collar. Because you're college educated, you're in charge of some assembly line, but you don't have to actually do the work. Well, manufacturing is gone largely now in the US. Now, what do they do? Well, you have to have a master's degree. Oh, no, now you have to have a doctorate. So they just keep upping the ante when an electrician, 5 years after he or she does all the work, they're making about 80 to 90 grand a year without really trying, without trying very hard. You're not getting these college educated people. They got $100,000 in debt and they're lucky to make $40,000 a year. In one
Yeah,
of
it's
my
not even worth
companies,
it.
I have two kids who are college educated with degrees. I pay them $19 an hour
I did the same
because
thing.
they can't find a job.
I went to college, same thing. I learned development, all that stuff too. Like I'm my own kind of developer now, but at the same time, like when I went to college to learn all that stuff, because that's what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to learn like computers and stuff. I didn't grow up with computers. And so I really wanted to learn everything about it. But I went to college and like I ended up working at the IRS for $20 an hour, man. Like it just that's what happens. And
Yeah.
like it's not worth the debt that you incur to go to college. But I remember being in school and even after the 2002 like No Child Left Behind Act, all that kind of stuff was passed, right? Like they put it up on a pedestal. They were like, if you don't go to college, you're going to make so much less money in your life. You are going to be a loser, all that kind of stuff too. I remember in my town, like I grew up in a small town, in a small community in northern Utah, and we had this place called like Bridgerland Technology School, and you went there to learn how to be a mechanic. You went there to learn
Yeah.
how to do any number of these trades, being an electrician, being a journeyman, that kind of stuff, learning contracting. Like that's where you would go. But the problem is I saw the kids who went there, they were the troublemakers. Like they were all the kids who thought they weren't going anywhere anyway. They were all the kids who got in trouble for drugs or were in and out of juvie, that kind of stuff too. And so you looked at that and put this certain stigma around it. Like you looked at these guys like they
And
were lesser, like they weren't smart, like they're dirty. These are dirty jobs for dirty people who just can't make it, can't cut it in college, aren't even like they can't even go to college, right? So that's kind of the
yeah,
stigma they build up around it. Like I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that they're correct in that, but I am saying there is a stigma around it. And so that's the way that people start to look at it because the educators and their parents, like, you got to go to college. If you don't go to college, you're going to be a loser. You can't even make it in life. They're not trying to push kids into these mechanic positions, into these contracting positions, into electricians and that kind of stuff. And they don't realize that, like, yeah, you're not going to be able to learn to do this stuff. This is not general knowledge. You need somebody specialized who has focused on this for the last 20 years to be able to get this done because they're the only ones that can really solve this problem. Like you hear the old adage, right? Plumber walks in, bangs on a pipe, it's fixed.
yeah.
That'll be, $3,000, whatever it is, right? And he's like, $3,000, why is that? It's like, well, you're not paying me for the time that it took. You're paying me for the years that it took me to learn where to knock on the pipe.
Right. That's true. And Alex brought up something. Hey, Alex F. Alex brought up something because I was going to talk about that. Um, Again, this is the same numbers. This is how many people, and I just did the top three trades. There's a ton of other trades, but we're not going to go through them all. Per year, they're losing, or they I should say they need just to sustain the current demand. So 73,500 electricians, 79,500 carpenters, 42,600 plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters every year for the next 10 years, just to keep it at the level it is now, not to get it to where it should be. So there's no effing way if you look at kit, guys. I don't even care if you don't like it. I talk a lot about on my channel, people like find your passion, find your purpose. Bullshit. Find a way to feed your family. You can do your passion later, but you need to find a way to feed your family. And Chase brought up a very important thing for these young kids. They see these influencers flying around on a private jet that's not even a private jet. They rent it to make the illusion that they're these ballers. Okay. There's a false narrative going on. And these kids try to emulate that, just like rappers and I'm going to be a football player. Okay. Psyops on these young kids. And there's not enough fathers in the household to tell the kid, look at dummy, I love you, but you're not talented enough to be the football player. You're just not. Why don't you, and you're dumb. I'm sorry. Like you're a dummy. But you're really good with your hands, you're really good with this. How about being an electrician? How about being a plumber? And it's not that you're too dumb for college, but what you do know, what your skill set is, would lean better for the trades. That's what your dad's trying to tell you, or a strong masculine father figure. And he might be biased because maybe he is a plumber. The point is, we've lost direction from male leadership. It's usually women yapping away in the fucking home saying, oh, yeah, honey, you can be the next LeBron James, and just they believe it.
See
they don't
that?
have they don't have an actual, like, they can believe it all they want because they love their kid. But a man, we're like, no, you can't. No, I'm sorry. I've been a dream killer for my kids. I love my kids. Sometimes they wanted to do some really dumb things. My daughter, I love her to death. She said, I want to be this type of scientist. I'm like, you failed math every single year for the last 5 years. Well, you think I'm dumb? I'm like, yeah, in math, you are dumb. I'm sorry. No, I'm not
You
wasting.
need to try harder.
You need to try harder, or maybe you're better at something else. Well, it turns out she's really good in business. And not because she went to college to get a bullshit business degree, because they're a bunch of fucking idiots. I taught her business, and she runs one of my companies, and we're about to open another location. And she does not ask me a damn thing. She just runs it. She knows what to do. My son, he's a mechanic. He loves it. He's like, my God, I make good money. I enjoy what I do. I didn't
Yeah.
want to go to college. His friends go to college and they're partying, and his friends, I'm sorry, are retarded too. Like, I know them. I'm like, you're not very smart. I don't know why you're going to college. They don't have a dad. They have a single mom sitting at home telling them just go to college. Let's just waste some more money. Let's abduct our responsibilities 4 more years. We're basically abducting adulthood for 4 more years. That's what most people in college do. Look at, I had 300 units in a SUNY school.
Yeah.
I knew these kids very well. And I was the guy who went to high school who owned all these properties who they rented from me. I didn't rent from them, they rented from me. So, back on topic, the trades, a lot of it has to do with the lack of strong male leadership in a young man's life, giving him honest direction, not throwing sunshine up this kid's ass saying, yeah, you can be the next LeBron James or Pookie or whatever the fuck rap name is out there. That's
And that's
bullshit.
and that's absolutely one of the biggest issues since the 70s is the biggest thing. We've lost rite of passage. We've lost that connection with our father. We've lost that
Yeah.
connection with real male role models in our lives. And we have all these women around us telling us that we could be anything, that we all deserve a trophy, that we got to preserve everybody's feelings. And it's like, dude, that's not the real world. Like, you're not preparing these kids for the real world. You're not preparing them for life. They're going to get into life and they're going to expect everybody to bend for them. And so that's the biggest problem is like they'll get into a job and they'll go like, well, no, like I don't want to do that. I'm not passionate about that. It's like, well, dude, that's life. Like who the hell taught you that? That's where the father comes in, is the fact that like I remember reading the book, by Robert Bly, Iron John. And in that book, he talks about rite of passage a lot, and he says that a lot of it's just like these boys have no connection with their father; they're not initiated. He wrote this book in 1990, and he saw it as a problem back then. He'd been doing a lot of male retreats and all that stuff too through the 80s, and these men would stand up and talk. These young boys would stand up and talk, and within 5 minutes they would be crying, and they wouldn't even know why. And so he talks about the blow that they get from their father and like how their father kind of wounds them. Like they need to sever the connection with their mother. And a lot of the time, because their mother's like, oh, he's a nice boy, and she has all these passions for what he's going to be when he grows up, and that's my son, and that's who he is, and like he never actually goes out into the wilderness with dad and learns how to hunt and learns these real skills and learns what the real world is really about, because dad doesn't hold back. And we have all this generation of weak men out there now that do not understand these things because they weren't initiated themselves. A lot of the time they were taught by a weak stepfather. They were taught by a weak grandfather who really held all this stuff up on a pedestal and said, you know what, like you can be whatever you want to be. And it's like, well, no, dude, we need people in society carrying society. That's why we had the American dream back in the 50s. And that's what's been eroded from us, is the fact that like these kids look at this and they don't want this anymore. They're like, I want something else. I want to, do what I'm passionate about. I ask my sons what they want. I have one son who is really passionate about engineering, and like he wants to build airplanes and that kind of stuff. Like he's really into World War II and learning about all that stuff. And then I have another son, all he consumes is YouTube. Like all he wants to be is a YouTuber. And I'm not saying that anything's wrong with that. The second I bring up journeyman to him, the second I bring up trying to be a contractor to him, he's like, no, I don't want any part of that. And it's like, that's what's happening with most kids nowadays. I think the most impressionable kids in this are the kindergartners to sixth graders. They're the ones who are looking at these big trucks outside and they're like, that is fascinating to them. It's fascinating to them when somebody comes in with a tool belt on and like comes to fix everything. They're like, oh my God, this guy's awesome. They wanted to be cowboys and stuff back in the days, right? And so that's what's kind of been eroded away from society. This is the male influence that we've lost in our society over time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because when I went in the military and I got out and I started buying rental property, and I knew, like, my dad and I, we didn't really talk a lot, but for whatever reason, like my brothers, like the whole Schoonmaker clan, like everyone like thinks it's funny, but we're just born, we know how to fix shit. Like nobody has to tell us. It's just, oh, like it's weird. Like my cousins, if I don't know how to fix something, they're right there. And they're like, oh, it's here. I'm like, oh my God, how did you learn this? Like, I have no fucking idea.
That's funny.
And
No, my wife actually just mentioned, sounds like the snows. I'm like, yeah,
it's
that's exactly how I
crazy.
grew up, man.
And we all say the same thing. Like they like, look, it's already broke. You can't break it anymore. So try to fix it. And that's what I tell like my son and his friends and young kids, and even like young couples, like, listen, yeah, go on YouTube. Like, listen, it's already broke. Try to fix it. Now, if you can fix it, look at the pride you have in yourself. I showed my son 2 days ago, 3 days ago. I had some 2x4 fluorescent bulbs that were burnt out in one of my businesses, Ice Mash. And instead of changing out the ballast, which is a pain in the dick, I said, let's just change out the whole fixture because the LEDs are so cheap now. So I showed him how to pull out the whole fixture, put the new one in, create the whip, put it out. Like it's not hard. As soon as I showed him how to do one, I always do the military way: see one, do one, teach one. I watched him do it. I said, "You good?" He goes, "Yeah." All right, you have 8 of them to do. He did them all. He texted me and then he called me. He was so proud. Like, this is so easy. I said, this is the exact same way, other than a 3-way, which we'll get into later, how you change every single fixture. It's only 2 wires typically. You can't fuck it up. So the point is, me being a father, I've always taught my kids what I know. Whether whether I have done it wrong, The damn thing worked. I don't care. So an electrician might come like, you should have really did this. I'm like, hey, guess what? It still works. I don't have to tell you. This is how it's going to be. Until he works for you, you show him what to do. And so that's another skill. And this is what I told him. I said, this is now a skill nobody can take from you. Nobody. I said, you could literally put a sign up on Craigslist or Facebook and change out fixtures now. People will pay you to change out an old fixture. They will, because they don't know how to do it. They're too scared. Oh my God, there's power. I could die. You can't die unless you're standing in water, for Christ's sakes. It's not that much. So teach your kids what you know. I just did a video on this. I don't care what it is. Teach them what you know, teach them what you're good at, but point them into a direction that you already know their skills. You're their dad, you're their mom. You already know they're not that bright in school. So don't lie to them like, yeah, you could be a doctor. Can you? Can you really? Like, listen, no, I'm sorry. You might be an okay doctor, maybe, but are they really good with their hands? Well, maybe you should get them into the trades. Maybe you should get them into something where they understand common sense and they understand mechanical. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. That's just my 2 cents on it. A lot of parents have this pride that their kids are so
Right.
smart and they can be everything they can be. I'm like, no, I love my kids, but fuck, if they were a doctor, I'd be like, I don't want them. Like, I knew them growing up. I do not want them.
Well, the biggest thing is like kids are impressionable, man. Like they'll go whatever path you tell them to go. Like if you want them to be a doctor, like they're okay, dude. I'll be a doctor. It's cool. I'll totally learn that. I'll be a lawyer. Like I could totally do that. I can go to college. Like they're so impressionable. And so here's the big thing too is like if they have a lot of men in their life who are journeymen, who are contractors, that kind of stuff, right? They're going to be like, oh my God, I want to go into that. Like this is so easy. Like I could totally do that. And so, like I said, they're just impressionable. Like whatever you tell them they could be, they're going to believe they can be it, and they're going to go try to be it. And so the biggest thing for me too is like, dude, I grew up on a farm. Like I grew up riding horses. I grew up taking care of like painting big, long fences that are half a mile long. I grew up helping my uncles and my grandpa. Basically, like they were the milkmen in the town, so we would go deliver the milk and stuff in the morning and everything. Like, it just was a really cool lifestyle that we kind of lost over the years. I go back there now and I see like, dude, there's freaking subdivisions everywhere around that whole place. It was all freaking land before that, and now it's just like it's all kind of just cornered it all in. And now my uncle, like he's the one who owns the dairy now. And he's like, dude, I'm done after this. Like, I'm going to hang it up and we're done. I'm going to sell the land. And like, there's no reason to keep it around because nobody wants it. Everybody just orders everything from Metal Gold now. And so that's the biggest thing. Like we're losing that. Like we're losing farms. We're losing land. We're losing farmers. We're losing so much that carries America. Like who's going to grow your food in the future? Who's going to come fix your house? Who's going to build your infrastructure? Who's going to fix your roads? Who's going to fix your cars? And here's the biggest thing too, is now that we're lowering standards for these things, like none of these guys are going to be able to do it very well, even if they can do it. And so it's creating a huge systemic issue. One thing that I read online too from the Bureau of Labor Statistics was the fact that office space is going to be at least 30% less in demand by 2030. And now they're looking at repurposing office space as low-income housing because we need more houses than offices now because everybody's working from home. And everybody thinks that they can just go work abroad and all that kind of stuff too. And it's like, well, yeah, some people can. Not everybody can. That's for damn sure. And it's not something like it's hard work no matter what you do. Trying to be a YouTuber is hard work. Trying to be a good marketer is hard work. Trying to be a good coach is hard work. Trying to be in these trades, it's hard work. Dude, pick your heart. It doesn't matter. There's no wrong answers here. It's just a matter of what you're happy with every single day. I think that society has hypnotized us with, no, go with your passion. If you're happy doing what you're doing, then you're doing it right. And it's like, dude, you could be happy doing anything. It's the people who are telling you that you're not happy being a mechanic, that you're not happy in construction. I remember when I was doing construction jobs, I would finish doing drywall work. I would finish doing tiling an entire floor and just look at what I had just achieved. And it was the most amazing feeling that I could have imagined when I'd sit there and tile an entire floor, an entire house. Like, you'd look at the whole freaking section. I'm like, holy crap, man, I did that. Like, that was cool. And I felt accomplished, and it had an amazing feeling for me. And like, yeah, it's hard work. Yeah, my knees hurt. Yeah, my back hurt for sure. You got to do it the right way. You got to carry stuff the right way. But that's why I got built. Like, that's really what built my muscles for me. I watch all these kids and stuff today, and like, they're so skinny. They're little twigs, and they just want to go and be marketers. All of them.
Yeah. And again, that's what you want to do, and you're really good at it. We're not here picking on any particular person, but if you do have the thought, or you were told this lie that the people in the trades are not smart or less than somebody in high school or in college, well, they might have had a different upbringing, and they may have not had the opportunity somebody had in college. Some of them went into the trades because that's what their dad did or their grandfather did, and they followed the steps, and that's perfectly fine. The point is, don't let somebody else tell you what you shouldn't be. And I do find a lot of parents, society as a whole, push college. They say, oh, you want a good job. I don't want a good job. I want to learn a skill set nobody can steal from me. Every single college degree, you're not learning a skill set. I'm sorry, you're learning how to regurgitate bullshit. And really, what it has been to me, these jobs require a degree, but they don't need the degree. They just require it because it's been built in. Like, well, you know, we want to know that you know how to learn. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. I learn how to learn. And if you don't have the degree, you're not even looked at. Okay, well then maybe I don't even want to be part of that company. I was talking to a friend of mine, he's an ex. He was my neighbor when I was married, and he is a pharmaceutical sales rep. They make great money, but he's in sales. It's not so much the college, it's you need to learn sales, you need to learn kind of manipulation, you need to learn social skills, you need to learn frame control, you need to learn a whole other set that college doesn't teach you. They teach you business, so you need a business degree, which is the stupidest degree I've seen. The business degree curriculum, they're 15 years behind where they are today, and they still teach the same bullshit. It's the dumbest stuff. But now I have a business degree, so I can apply to this job so that I can do sales, which has nothing to do with the business degree, to sell drugs,
And that's just
pharmaceutical
it. Like,
sales.
that's what they're testing you on. Like, do you remember this stuff? Like,
Do
here's the
you
thing.
know how to sell? Yeah. Or
Like,
do
that's
you
all
do
it
you
is. It's
know?
all just memory. It doesn't really freaking matter. Like, they're not actually teaching you anything useful. Like, I can think back to when I was in college about 15 years ago, 10 years ago. It I don't remember at least 90% of the stuff I learned. Honestly, I can't remember any of it because I just didn't need it after. Like, I didn't apply it. And so, like, I never really got experience with it because I didn't end up in the field that I thought I was going to end up in because, life, it does what it does, right? You kind of end up where you need to end up. A lot of these guys end up in these $20 an hour jobs anyway. They'll go to college, they'll spend $100,000, and then they're freaking under that crushing debt. They've got to spend $2,000 a month to pay it back, and they're working a 20-hour job. And so $20 an hour job, right? And so that's really what ends. Like, if you go into a trade, it costs way less and you make way more. And so that 5-year, 10-year trade-off of that experience is drastically bigger for the people in the trades. And they're way more in demand. They're never going to be out of work. And so a lot of the time, like, here's the biggest thing too, is like, people in these trades, like, they know they're not going to be passing this on to their kids anymore. Like, they know that the business is pretty much over once they're retired and it's done. So they're looking for buyers. Like, who wants to buy me out? They're absorbing it into big companies and that kind of stuff too. And like, what you got to understand is the government wants you to be dependent on them. They want to give you more money. They want to give you more resources so that you're more dependent on them because it serves society. It doesn't actually serve you. It doesn't serve the people. And so these skills are really what differentiates you from the people who are going to be dependent on the government. because now you have something that they cannot take from you, and you are in demand, and they need it because it is the backbone and the life force of America. And so here's the big thing. Like, I think a lot of younger kids really should be being taught this stuff. Like, you don't even see Bob the Builder on TV anymore. Nothing has come to replace it. And so they're not being impressioned into these things. I remember when I was a kid, when I was 3 years old, 4 years old, I had those big metal Tonka trucks. Like, you wouldn't even see that stuff. Those things would freaking bust your head open if you hit them the wrong way, because they were just giant hunks of metal. You don't even see kids playing with that stuff like that anymore. Like, I had those freaking cap guns, right? And they were metal too. It was cool. It was a cool childhood. I grew up around horses, and I went out there with my shooters and stuff too. I played with my Tonka trucks, and so that's what I was impressioned into. But I don't see that stuff happening for kids today. And I realized, okay, I failed my kids in that regard too, because I didn't give that stuff to them. I've got a kid who wants to be an engineer, sure, but I've got another one who just wants to be a YouTuber. And I'm not saying there's any wrong answers or that he shouldn't go one way or the other. I'm just saying that he should know that there's options, that he doesn't have to do that, that a lot of people do that. And it doesn't matter what you decide to do. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be hard work, and you're going to need experience no matter what it is. And I think that a lot more kids need to see the fact that, like, these trades are going to be very in demand in the next 5 years. They're only on the decline. And so that means that we're going to need more and more of these jobs. They're only going to pay more. And eventually the government's going to look at this and go like, okay, we need to invest in this again. We need to stop trying to get kids into college. We need to actually get these trade recruiters back in here. We need to get shop class back into school. And we need to start getting these kids impression into these jobs again and realize that this is an option. I remember shop class, and I remember building out an equalizer and all that kind of stuff too. And it would actually play the lights to the music and all that stuff. And it was the coolest freaking thing. And I always felt accomplished every time I built one of those things. And I was super passionate about it. And kids these days don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I'm so glad where my kids went up in upstate New York, they still have what's called OCM BOCES. So my son went in to the auto trades in high school. And when he got out, he got his 2 year ASC, whatever the certificate is. I don't know what it's called. But he went in and he started, working in a shop in a shop. And, he's doing all the bitch work first, tires, brakes, but then he got into other stuff. My daughter did because her mom was a hairstylist. They teach these types of trades still. I don't think every state has it, but New York still does, thank God. And it gives these kids who know they don't want to go to college, or at least they want to have a skill. And this is the thing I always harp on. A trade will give you a skill nobody can take away from you. AI cannot replace an electrician. It cannot replace a plumber. It cannot replace a steam fitter. Cannot replace a welder. Can it replace the engineer on a wiring scheme? Absolutely. You can do it right now on ChatGTP. Create a complete wiring scheme. It can replace, and not yet, but it can. Can it replace an attorney? Yes. I can go to ChatGTP right now and create a contract that is, I might still have my attorney look at it, but every time I have, my attorney's like, who did this? I'm like, ChatGTP. He's like, Jesus. So there are certain, quote unquote lawyers, engineers, they probably will be replaced very soon by AI. But to do the actual work cannot be. It can't. So would I rather be in a trade that, even if I left that trade, even as I said, you know what, I'm so tired of being a plumber right now, I'm going to try to be a YouTuber, or I'm going to try to travel and be a marketer. But knowing if I ever want to get back into that trade, I already have a skill set that maybe I'm going to have to do some bitch work for a year to kind of get my feet wet back into it, but I still have it. That's what I want my kids, your kids, other kids to at least have something to fall back on. And college is not it. I'll argue with this. I will debate this with anybody all day long. College, you will not fall back on your degree, because the way they do it now is like, oh, you have a bachelor's? That's a dime a dozen. you might as well have a high school degree. You need a master's. Oh, in your career field, you're maxed out at 60 grand a year, but if you want to make 70, you need a doctorate. So I need to spend 30 to make 10? That's stupid. This is the way it is. College has this way of indoctrinating people saying because I'm educated, I'm smart. That's stupid. No, I
That is
know
an
a lot of
interesting point.
educated people are dumb as shit.
That is an interesting point to make, though, too, is the fact that like somebody can get into these positions, but at the end of the day, they can get it. Sorry, give me 1 second. 1 second. Sorry, I got a leak here.
You got a B?
Leak.
Oh. So anyway, so I'm just gonna kind of rant on that. I am not knocking people that want to go to college. I'm not. And if you want to learn whatever the hell college is here to teach you, great and do it. But when you can't find a job and all of these people are saying, oh, well, I shouldn't have to pay for my college degree. The government should pay it. Let's wipe out the debt. Well, what are you really saying? Like, I went to do something because I wanted to learn how to do underwater basket weaving. And oh my God, shock, gender studies, shock. I can't get a job. Well, no shit, because nobody's going to hire you for your dumb ideology. But if I'm an electrician, everybody's going to hire me when the power goes out in the house. And I can't find the loose neutral, but this guy can. That's who I'm going to hire. When my toilet's backed up, I'm going to hire this dude. I'm not going to hire the queer gender studies guy in college to fucking fix my leak and find out why my toilet isn't flushing. I'm going to hire the plumber. So who's actually smarter? My
That's a good point, though,
grandfather
because like here's the thing, dude. I just actually was just talking just now, and like my
leaked.
freaking AC's back here, freaking leaking all over my TV, and I'm like, I just immediately turned off the camera, fixed it real quick, and like we're good. A lot of people would be freaking out, like, how do I solve that? What do I do? And like I said, the point that you were making before that too, the fact that you have to go back to college to get a master's, to get a doctorate, to even move up in your career.
Yeah.
When you're in a trade, you just need more experience. Like
Yeah.
you just stay there for a really freaking long time. You learn more and more and more, and they'll just move you up because you're the most experienced guy on the team. And so they value their people more than the people who actually go to college too.
Absolutely. And my grandfather used to tell me he was a TV repairman. He was, I talk about him a lot in my videos because he was the the most male figure I had in my life that I always looked up to. He never let me down on anything, like never. And he brought up a point one time where his this guy's TV. Now this guy was a doctor, okay, and my grandmother was going on and on. Oh, Dr. Smith, you have to go there. He's like, he's just like everybody else. Why do I have to go there sooner when everybody else? And she's like, well, you don't want to not piss off the doctor. What if, you need him one day? He's like, let me ask you a question. If the trash men stop picking up my trash in 1 week, who's more important? The doctor who I may never need or the trash man?
See, I think
My
we saw
grandmother
a lot
thought
of
about it.
this during the
My
pandemic.
grandmother thought about it. She goes, yeah. She goes, yeah. So listen, I don't care about titles. Is like, who do you
Right.
really need the most in society? It's your trades. I'm not saying a trash man's a trade, but it is another function of society nobody thinks about. But okay, let's stop picking up your trash for a month and see really that smell. That who's really more important, the doctor or the trash man?
Yeah, what happens when all your plumbing gets backed up in your house and all of
Right?
the sinks, all of the toilets can't flush? There's no
Yeah.
freaking water running. Like it's a big deal that people take for granted for sure. And so that's one big thing too, is I realized like back in the pandemic, a lot of these guys got furloughed. They couldn't actually go do their work and stuff too because they had to stay home. They had to keep their masks on, all that, whatever, like all that bullshit. And so there was all that going on top of it. And like, we couldn't get these guys to our houses. We couldn't fix these problems. We saw society ground to a halt without these guys. And at the same time, like everybody else is like, well, I can just work online. I'll just work on my computer. And they just took their jobs straight home. And then that I started to realize that, okay, I don't even need to be in the office. So now there's a deficit of offices. Now they're trying to convert offices into actual short income housing and all that kind of stuff too. Who is meant to convert those offices? Right? We're going to need more contractors. That creates an even larger deficit for contractors. And no matter what we do in society, our cities, our roads, everything that we use systemically in society, all of our pipes, our electricity, everything keeps flowing because of these people. And if there's a deficit for these people and we can't keep other people in business and keep these guys trained up and keep new, fresh people coming in, after everybody else is retired and taken their skills with them out of the market, we're in real trouble. This is going to cause real problems. You think you live in a first world country right now, it's going to be a third world country real freaking quick without these people.
So let me ask you a question. What percentage of all the trades are men? Just a roundabout percentage.
I would be guessing, honestly, I would say probably at least 90% of them.
99%.
Wow.
Bricklayers are at 99%. Plumbers are at 99%. Electricians are actually tipped down a little bit. They're around
I see a lot of women
94%.
here. Yeah, for sure.
Finish work, like there's a lot of females that are really good at sheetrock finishing because they have a very light touch. That's right around 87%. So females are getting into that. But the reason why I brought that up is because, it is Father's Day is coming up, and I'm going to be a dick, of course. There's always these women saying, "Oh, I never need a man. Men, I don't need for nothing." I'm like, every single trade, most of the time when you call somebody, the people who are building your house, 99.98%, almost 100% of the road work done is done by men. And the only reason there's a deviation there is the fucking flag holders are women. The
Well, the
ones
thing is,
holding the flags are women. The point is, women, when women say this, I laugh. I'm like, all of the trades, this is what's keeping you alive.
yes,
Forget the people who fix the cars, forget the people who fix your internet. Those are all different trades. You live in a man's world. And I'm going to be a dick about this because there's so many women who fight me on this. I'm like,
men invented it, man. Like they
we
invented it. They
invented it
control it.
too, but we're stupid. We're dumb. Men, we're dumb. Like, okay.
We invented
Huh,
society. We did.
yeah.
You can't say we didn't.
I'm not here to go on that, but skilled labor is a man's thing. It's backbreaking. These guys age themselves so fast, especially like
Right.
roofers and
They
carpet
work hard.
installers, kickers. I have friends that are my age and they look 20 years older. But the point is, I love them all because this society runs on the backs of skilled
Yes.
labor. It doesn't run on the backs of white collar pencil pushers doing TPS reports and jerking off in the bathroom. Fuck those guys. It doesn't run off of that stuff. Nobody cares about your job. But when your toilet doesn't flush and it's backing up into your basement, you care really much. I got to call a plumber, and the plumber's 3 weeks out. And you're like, shit. Like, yeah, yeah. Don't know what to tell you. We have a 24-hour service at $4.75 an hour. You'll pay it. Guarantee you'll pay it. So
Well,
who's
here's the thing
smarter?
too. Like somebody rams their car, they're drunk driving, rams their car into a power pole and takes it down. The transformer's out, half the city's out. Power. Who's going to fix it? Who's going to prioritize it? You
Yeah,
don't
the
even think
utility
about
companies come out there, and it's always men. The electricians coming out there. It's the girls. Oh, I got the flag. Yeah, great, cool. You're holding a flag. Get the hell out of here. I got to go. You know, I got to
Well,
go
that's the thing
risk
too
thirty
is
thousand joules entering my body and kill me in seconds. I got to work that in the rain. You go hold the flag. Awesome. You
people
know.
who are unskilled are cheap. That's just cheap
Mhm,
labor. Cheap
mhm.
labor is unskilled, and skilled labor is not cheap. And so
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things to remember in this too. Is most like 97% of people end up being a cashier at Walmart, end up going to work at some office job that really doesn't care what their level of education is. They hire good managers, but they don't care about the general education. They'll just hire anybody. I mean, the government jobs, they'll take anybody with a pulse. Like they're not really trying to qualify people into this stuff. And so here's the thing: when it comes to these trades, we do not want that happening in these trades. We need skilled people, because if they're not skilled and they're out there getting hurt, they're out there messing up, they're out there not doing a good job, we have real systemic issues to deal with as a result of that. We don't want construction workers out there getting hurt their first year. 30% of them, 35% of construction workers get hurt in their first year because they're not skilled enough, because they have to lower the standards for what they're accepting, because there's just not enough of them and they're so in demand. And so what do you think is happening with journeymen? What do you think is happening with contractors? What do you think is happening with farmers? Who's going to grow your food when all of the farmland is gone and nobody wants to be farmers anymore or take over the family business or anything? What do you think is going to happen? Society will grind to a freaking halt, man. It doesn't work without it. And we can't have AI replace this. Computers can't do anything without it. And so you've got to understand that this is going to be a real issue in the next 5 years. And these guys are going to be more in demand than they ever have been. And they're going to make more money. And we need people getting into it right now, because we need skilled people doing it. We need people who care about these jobs doing it. I mean, I'm half tempted to move back up to the United States and start getting into this, because I'm like, dude, we really need this. This really matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. I mean, I've done all that stuff. I'm not half tempted to do anything. I'll clap for you. I'll hire
Oh yeah,
you, but I'm not half tempted to do that shit. You guys are the true heroes. I'm not. Shit. Fuck that. Not gonna
they are
happen.
too. They are.
They are.
Society stands on you, man. That's what this is.
It was funny because we'll leave it at this. So maybe a month or two longer. I don't know. My girlfriend didn't know that I know how to fix stuff. Like, because I'm not always near her. Like, she lives in South Carolina. I'm between New York and North Carolina and South Carolina. And maybe it was during Christmas. I really have no concept of time. I really don't. I wanted to, instead of buying her something stupid, like, let me redo your bathroom, except for your tub, because that's like a huge. So I put down new flooring, painted, new vanity, toilet, and she loved it. She goes, "Oh my God, I never knew you knew how to do this stuff." I'm like, "Honey, I own over 350 units. I started someplace. Just because I don't do it now doesn't mean I don't know how to do it. Just means I kind of prefer not to. And I will always hire it out. But I know when someone's screwing me over. Like, I'm like, you're an idiot. I'll do it myself. But if they're reasonably priced, I want them to do it, because it's still cheaper for them to do it than really what my billable hours are. But I did it for her because I wanted to do something with my hands for her. Great, no problem. So she was like, "Oh my, I never knew it." And to me, I'm like, every man should at least know how to put a toilet in. Like, it's not hard. A vanity, it's not hard. Like, put flooring down. I'm like, this is easy stuff. But she was like, my, my dad knows how to do it. My brothers did, but I didn't think you did. I'm like, hello, I did. But, you know, so when I talking to people, and I always say, well, at least try it. Like, even if you mess up the floor, like, does it really hurt anything? Like, you can always hire somebody to maybe fix what you messed up, or says you really screwed it up, but just try it. And like you said, there's plenty of YouTube videos. Like, you can figure it out if you're half smart. You can figure it out. And I always tell men, the last thing you really want to do is have another man come into your house with your wife and kids or your girlfriend and fix something that you didn't even try to fix.
That's
If you
fact.
tried to fix it and you failed, that's one thing. Like, listen, I really did try. I kept shocking myself.
Yep.
Probably should not do it then. Good idea. Call the electrician. But if you don't even try and you just call the electrician, and another grown man has to come into your house, man, that would piss me off.
Everybody in the scenario feels like you're lesser of a man. You do. Even you
Everybody
do.
does. If I was the electrician and my girl like banged him, I'm like, yeah, you're right. You probably should have. Like, fuck, I screwed up. I'm like, God, I don't have a leg to stand on, you know. But my point is, there's so much information out there. I truly believe you. If you're a young man or even a guy in your 30s, you're at a crossroad, look into the trades. If you're halfway good with your hands and you have basic common sense, which is a rarity these days, but if you have basic common sense, you can get into any trade work and make massive money, help people because you're literally helping somebody, whether it's residential or commercial. You get to drive by some big thing that you did and tell your kids, you know, all that piping in there? I did that.
Yes.
Your kids are like, you did it all? He goes, well, not just me, but like my union did that or my company did that. That's amazing. Like that's an amazing
It
feeling.
is.
Like you did something, you built something for society.
And it feels amazing. Like it really
Feels amazing.
does.
Yeah.
I watched my brother go through this. Like back last December, January ish, he wrecked his car right into the back of another BMW, and like he paid for the BMW to have it fixed, and he's like, I can't afford to fix my car, so he just got to work on it, man. He freaking pulled everything apart. He replaced every little part. He made sure he knew what was happening. Pulled up the videos. Like I watched him out there for days. He got that car up and running himself. He drove it back to California himself. He put a new body kit on it himself. I'm like, holy crap, dude. Like, and you can tell he feels amazing about it. He posted the whole process as he went through it. And like I said, that's really what this takes. Like, I know for me, dude, if I have a hole in my wall, I'm going to fix it. If something's wrong in my house, I'm going to fix it. If it's my house and I got to fix it, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to figure it out. I will clear my drains, whatever I have to do. I will try at the very least. And if I can't do it, yeah, we're going to call somebody in to do it, to get it done. But at the end of the day, I haven't had to hire a mechanic in my whole life for anything. I've replaced my own radiators. I've replaced my own thermostats. I've replaced my own brakes, my tires, everything. I don't expect anybody else to do it because I know how to do it. And if I have to have somebody come do it, I know whether they know what they're talking about or not. That's for sure. And so, like I said, I mean, I may build computers and software now, but I used to build houses. Like I definitely got into that when I was a teenager and all that stuff too. And I just kind of decided over time, okay, I'm probably better off going into this, doing that. I watched everybody try and work online. I wanted to live abroad because my family was down here. It's not because I just wanted to go work online and be a digital nomad. I had family here in Cabo, and I'm like, okay, I want to be closer to them, so I got to be able to work online. That's all it was for me. But like I said, there's no real wrong answers. I'm just saying there's more options for you than you might think. And like I said, these are not hidden jobs. You can go talk to any of your applied technology schools in your town. Look it up. Look up applied technology schools near you. Those recruiters would be more than happy to talk to you and show you around and show you what you need and like give you the pamphlets and everything to tell you what you're passionate about. And so they're more than happy to do that. Go to your local HVAC store. Go to your local contractors. Ask them who to talk to. They'll tell you. They'll tell you exactly where to go because this stuff is so in demand. They'll even probably hire you right there on the spot. Like, oh, you want to learn how to do this? Let's go, man. Like, we need you. And so that's really what all this stuff comes down to. So don't be afraid to go talk to these guys.
Yeah. Guys, that's all we have. We're over our hour. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Father's Day's this weekend for the fathers out there. And I'm going to throw in for the stepfathers out there because I never throw shade on them. You guys know my position on it. But if you're there for a child in any capacity and you're trying to be a positive male figure for that child, Sunday's your day. Happy Father's Day. I definitely appreciate the work that you're putting in for society, helping level up those young boys and girls. You might be a stepfather to a daughter, but it's definitely something a lot of people look down on. A lot of people don't put much thought into. I do because I've been on both sides of the fence. Happy Father's Day to you. If you're a father who has not seen your kids, who basically is a piece of shit, fuck you. That's all I got to say on that. I think you've done all you did is ejaculate, and you're really not a father. So that's all I'm going to leave it with that on it. We'll see you guys next weekend on our next live. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach us at the links down below. And we'll see you next weekend. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Happy Father's Day.